Hi there, PMTI prospects and students, audiences here. I have Bharati Yadati here, who is ready to talk a little bit about her journey in getting this PMP certification. She has an extraordinary success with not only getting the certification, but also materializing it into a fabulous career for her. So my job here is to kind of get how what her journey of preparation was, and maybe there is something that you can learn out of it and go from there. All right, sounds good. Welcome, Bharati. Thanks for taking time to spend time here with our Project Management Training Institute here. My goal here is to kind of walk you through some questions that hopefully will be inspirational and provide some guidance to some of our audience. Are you good with that?
Yes, yeah, thank you.
Excellent. So tell me a little bit about your background.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Bharati Yadati, and I'm an MBA graduate from India. I started my career in marketing, but I shifted to education sector in 2010. During the last 10 years, I have held a variety of roles in education. I worked as a parent liaison and managed non-academic operations, taught math to middle school, led extracurricular activities department, and I also headed an elementary school. As a next step in my career, I decided to go into the educational technology setting. Project management felt very close to my experience in getting the job done and in leading teams and coordinating with various vendors and all those things. So that is how my project management journey started.
Beautiful. Sounds like, you have a breadth of experience across at least a few industries, but very strongly, very significantly deep in the education, particularly in the K-12, education sector.
That's correct.
Yeah, awesome, great. So what prompted you to consider the PMP certification? What is it that drove you? Did you talk to your friends or did you hear about it? So what prompted you to get the certification?
I actually have had a lot of experience in managing both small and large projects in education domain. I have always found immense satisfaction in getting things done, and I enjoyed achieving project outcomes. But all my project execution experience came from real life work, and a lot of it was intuitive rather than structured. I did not have any formal training in project management discipline. So I wanted to add a formal structure to my experience, and I also wanted to learn how I can make my projects more successful based on the industry best practices. I realized that a lot of employers look for an industry certification like PMP, and PMP is one of the most difficult certifications, more difficult certifications, which requires you to prove that you have actually managed projects for at least a few years and also demonstrate the subject knowledge. A PMP certification automatically meant that you have gone through the rigors of actual projects and you understand the discipline as well. So combining both my interest in professional development and to look more attractive to the potential opportunities, I considered the PMP certification.
Beautiful, awesome. So clearly, you had a directed goal that you wanted to achieve through this certification, recognized the difficulties, and probably understood, there could be roadblocks along the way. So there's a lot of ways to approach it, right? You could have done self-study, you could have done video-based on-demand training, or you could have perhaps done live training. Did you explore them? And if you did you pick one or another? And if so, why?
Yes, initially I did consider doing it on my own. There is enough training material and enough courses that are available online these days. But I was looking at an aggressive timeline of 3 to 4 weeks. I wanted to do it within that timeline. So taking help made more sense to me. And because of the current COVID situation, I was looking for online live training options. And that was my criteria actually.
Wonderful, awesome. Okay, so this was, on Zoom, a type of a training that you're talking about.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So, just hearing your background, which is, very checkered and, having had, heading an entire elementary school, I get the feeling that you had a, fair bit of experience in selecting sellers, right? So I assume that likewise, when you're putting, taking money out of your pocket and putting it for your career improvement through this certification, you must have considered various factors, right? Before you invested your hard-earned money into selecting a seller and choosing who to go with.
Yes, definitely. Actually, as I mentioned, my target was to complete the certification in 3 to 4 weeks time, and I was looking at various options. But I quickly realized that the aggressive timeline, I couldn't do it on my own, and I needed help. So I then started to research potential training partners, and my criteria was that they should help me with the entire process holistically, right from the application submission to the final certification. I was looking at factors such as application preparation help and minimum number of professional development hours given, on-demand videos, online live training availability, and someone who had focused on the final outcome rather than rather than simply providing the training. So I considered different providers before finalizing PMTI, and PMTI was offering all that I was looking for and a few more services like checking the application for eligibility and giving an in-house developed material. So I chose PMTI.
Awesome. So many exam takers are about, get to this journey and are they generally have a lot of questions about, related to the PMP certification, how is it going to help with career improvement? I'm sure you had similar questions. What questions did you have, and how did you get them resolved? Many of them would probably have similar questions as well.
Yes, I had many questions. Changing my career from being a core educator to becoming a project manager in an IT setting is a big challenge. I had many options in front of me, like business analysis, quality assurance, etc. But within a few days, it was quite clear to me that I would do a better job as a project manager. But one of the big questions I had was whether I would be eligible to take the exam. Most of my projects were for internal customers, so I was worried about the relevance and if my experience managing projects in the education area would be considered by PMI, the Project Management Institute. I also wasn't sure of the overall roadmap to certification, how long I should prepare for, and like when do I take the exam, and what if I cannot pass the exam in the first attempt. When I wrote to PMTI, most of my questions got answered.
So would it be fair to say that your first contact was email, or did you call, some of the vendors, and of course with PMTI, how did it go?
My first contact with PMTI was actually via email. I had emailed them. It was about my question related to the relevance of my experience to apply for the PMP certification. I sent the PMTI my resume along with the questions that I had, and I wanted them to check and let me know if my experience was considered eligible to take the test. PMTI responded back within a day, and they gave me confidence that my experience indeed was relevant and I could move forward with the process.
Wonderful. So, and then I assume that you felt comfortable with, whatever the offering with PMTI was, and the factors that you had, that you had into go for this certification. And I assume that you signed up, right?
Yes.
And then
that's why I signed up.
Great. So we look at this, from what you've seen with PMTI, we look at this as, your experience before you are in the class, and then during the class, and then after the class. What was your pre-class experience like? What did you like about it, and what did you not like about it?
I don't have anything that I did not like. I can actually tell you what I liked. So after I registered for the bootcamp, I immediately got an email with complete set of details about the bootcamp, and within 2 days, I received all the study material in mail, the actual physical copies. So one of them was the study guide, which I used extensively to prepare for the test. And the second one was only focused on the inputs, tools and technique, and the outputs used in the project management framework. And the third one was the template that we could use during our work as a project manager. And then we got access to our student portal, and we got reminders about the class, the diagnostic test we needed to take for the class, and the videos that we needed to watch. So there were a good amount of reminders that got us set for the exam preparation mode before the boot camp actually started. So when I had a few questions regarding the camp and the application, they responded immediately, both to my emails and to my phone calls. And they sent me the framework mind map and these math sheets to review before the class. The mind map poster that they sent was like huge, and it was impressive, and it was very useful. If you are a visual learner, the mind map will do the trick for you. They're pretty organized with their material and communications.
Okay, great. So I assume that one of the negatives would be you did have a lot of material, and I think you would have to, start doing some level of pre-class work. You can't just walk in and assume that, you can, somehow wing this in the class.
You do need to prepare. This exam needs you to prepare. Yeah. So you cannot not prepare, and you do need to spend a lot of time. So material is good. A lot of material is good.
Okay. So did you apply for the exam by the time you signed up, or did you have to prepare your application? And if that's the case, how did you go about getting your application in?
I did prepare the application, but I used PMTI's application preparation tool for it, and it was absolutely the best. It had guidelines that I could follow and helped me in filling out information in a structured way with all the project details, deliverables, timelines, and everything. I followed the preparation tool guidelines and filled out the application form. Then I sent it to PMTI for a review. Once they reviewed it and approved, then I submitted the application to the Project Management Institute. And it got approved within 4 days.
Great. So you actually had somebody, like a live person, actually take a look at your application and sign off on it.
Yes, they reviewed my application, and yes, I got an email back saying that yes, it's all good and you can submit the application.
Wonderful. Awesome. Okay. So now, so you're going through this pre-class prep. You're hopefully doing some of that online portal videos and maybe taking the diagnostic test. And when the class did start, because that's the crux, that's the meat of the whole class. How was your class experience? What did you see? What happened in the class? How do you think that has helped you prepare for the examination?
Yeah, the days during the boot camp, they felt really long. The class would start at 8:30 in the morning, and it would go on till 6:30 in the evening. Yeah. So we would take real short breaks in between and an hour of lunch. Other than that, it was all instruction and tests. But I really admired the way our instructor was able to keep us all focused and engaged for such a long duration. He was very knowledgeable, and he would answer all our questions with good reasoning. And he would give us 2 tests a day to complete, and we would review the hard questions after the tests in the class. On the last day of boot camp, we had to take the full length test of 4 hours, which was very similar to the actual test. All the questions in the PMTI test had the answer choices explained, and they even have the explanations for the wrong answer choices. So why they are not the right options for the given question, that was also being explained. Then they have given the page numbers of the study guide where the topic is dealt with. It makes it easy for us to quickly go to that page and browse through it. So it helped in retention. So this was how my 4 days were during the boot camp.
Yeah, very intense class. So I think the 4 days obviously will suck up your brain, and I think you should be prepared for it. Obviously, you can't have other things scheduled around that time frame.
No,
right?
Not at all.
So So the class is done. Did you feel prepared for the exam? Did you know that you could take the exam like right after the class? Or did you feel like, did someone tell you, hey, listen, this is how long I think you should prepare? Or did something happen? How did you know when to take the exam?
I did feel prepared for the exam, but PMTI had given us a criteria to schedule the test. So they had told us that if we get more than 75% consistently in all our mock tests, that is the right time to schedule the test. So Project Management Institute does not disclose the minimum marks required to pass the certification test. So the safe bet was to follow PMTI's criteria. I took many mock tests. I took tests from PMTI student portal and also many other PMP tests that were available online. When I started getting more than 75% in all my tests, I felt confident about taking the real test. And when I went to the actual test, when I went to take the actual test, of course, I was very nervous. And when the test started, the first 10 to 12 questions felt really hard. I wasn't certain if I was answering the questions correctly. But then I remembered my instructor telling me that the first few questions would be the hard ones. And he was right. The questions that followed were not as bad. I could easily understand what they were asking me, and I was sure about my answer choices.
And I assume that you took the exam, what, like within a week after the class, or?
It was about 10 days after the class, after the fourth day of boot camp. Yes, 10 days.
And you kind of had some sort of a study schedule in between, and you followed the study schedule to get to that point.
Yes, absolutely. I was going through the material again, whatever material PMTI had provided, and then I took a lot of mock tests. That was my whole preparation for 10 days before the test.
Okay, so I'm not going to dig deeper into your the exam experience, but I want to get into. Okay, so you took the test, you passed on the first try, and from your score report that you provided, clearly, I mean, you had above target in all areas, pretty much more or less all areas, and then you had above target across the whole exam, a phenomenal performance. So my question is, so you got the certification, obviously you got the certification to get you to a career path. Did you achieve what you wanted to achieve through that?
Absolutely. As I mentioned earlier, employers look for some baseline knowledge in project managers. So PMP certification provides that. The eligibility criteria to take the test for this certification is to have 36 months of project management experience. So if someone is PMP certified, it is telling the companies that that person has experience dealing with projects for a minimum of 36 months, if not more. Also, companies know that this is a difficult test. So they know that a person who passes this test has the resilience to put in a good amount of effort. So when I completed my PMP certification, I started getting more opportunities. In fact, the day I completed my certification, I applied for a few jobs, and the very next day after my certification, I got my first interview call. And the follow-up interviews were scheduled very quickly, and I was able to get a job within 2 weeks after the certification. While I won't, yeah, thank you. I mean, it's not just about PMP certification, but it certainly opened the doors for me by generating more interest in potential employers.
Yeah, and we try to tell that to our prospects. You get the PMP certification out of the blue, and the jobs just come rolling to you. That's not really what happens. The job openings come rolling to you. You still have to sell yourself. Eventually, it's your skills that have to sell. So is it fair to say that your journey from thinking about the certification, let's say that, you selected PMTI or whoever, from the time that you thought of going for certification to actually, landing a job, and was how long you think?
This was, I can say, about 4 weeks. Yes, 4 weeks. So I decided on going for a PMP certification. Then I sent my resume to PMTI to get it checked for the eligibility. And then I applied, I got into the boot camp, and I took my test. So this whole process was 4 weeks. And then 2 weeks after that, I got a job.
Fantastic. So I think it looks like if you set a goal, right, have a clear idea where you want to go, what your, end goal is, work through that goal, have a structure to it, right? Pick the right vendor and then go there, put in the effort that's required. It's a mutual partnership to get to the finish line, right? Then you put this structure together and then, reach out to those, potential prospective employers who you've been, researching. It looks like if you have this structure in place and assiduously work towards it, there's a better chance of success.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
Beautiful. Awesome. So I think most of the listeners would like to know at least a couple of things. If you passed obviously with great marks, and I think, and brilliant path along the way, very aggressive, a schedule that you've set for yourself and succeeded in it. With your success rate, with your success, if there's anything that you can tell, 3 things, let's say 3 things that our audience could get from you, right? That you derived out of this experience that can help them get the PMP certification and hopefully, find the job of their dreams. What would they be?
The experience that I had at PMTI was the one that actually helped me. The first one definitely is the cheat sheets that they provided, the math sheet and the framework sheet. The instructor constantly motivated me to internalize these. So knowing these definitely made it easy for me to take the test. And the second one was the mock test. So the mock test gave me the understanding on how to manage the time during the test. These tests are also made to practice focusing on an exam for 4 hours at a stretch and with a very small break in between. And also the third one, of course, was the support given by my instructor. He actually explained many concepts to my understanding and answered many of my questions, corrected me when my understanding was incorrect. This actually is possible only if you have a live instructor. Otherwise, if there is an online video going on, you cannot really ask your questions. That is not really possible. So these are the 3 things that helped me the most in passing my PMP exam.
So when you got this, so obviously you landed a job within 2 weeks of that. So is this a lateral shift? Is this an upgrade, or so how would you characterize your shift in the career from where you were to where you're going?
Yeah, it kind of is a career shift for me because I was coming from education industry to an IT industry, and that's what I wanted to do. So it is a lateral shift, I can say. It's not like growing up, because I was kind of a principal of a school earlier, but then now I'm a project manager in an IT setting. So it's entirely different, but PMP made it possible for me. It wouldn't have happened so quickly otherwise. If I had gone for something else, I'm sure.
But it's taking you in the direction of where you want your career to go and grow. Very good.
Yes. Yeah.
Go ahead. So what would be one advice, before we close, and thank you again for this time, but what would be one advice that you would provide to prospective exam takers for those who want to pass this examination on the first try?
Yeah. PMP is definitely not an easy test. So you'll need to study, internalize the framework, the processes, the knowledge areas, the inputs, outputs, tools and techniques, everything that is used. And although you can prepare on your own, having a partner like PMTI will absolutely help. Their experience in helping similar people and their tried and tested study material and mock tests, they will all definitely come in handy. And an instructor-led course will also give you an opportunity to interact and ask questions when you need clarification. They'll be available even after the boot camp to answer the questions. So that's my suggestion. But whatever you choose to do, ultimately it boils down to you. If you put in that effort, you will be successful. So good luck for your preparation and for the test.
So thank you, Bharati. Thank you for taking time to meet with me today and, share your thoughts about, your preparation, your journey, and, your success along the way with, prospective exam takers. And hopefully, those are looking for, choosing a good, PMP exam, preparation company. I wish you good luck with your future endeavors. This is a great, wonderful, great news for you as well as for your family. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family. And it couldn't come at a better time. This position and this wonderful career path that you're laying out in front of you. So good luck to you and your family. And thank you again for your time.
Thank you so much for having me, Yad.
All right,
Happy Thanksgiving to you too. Yeah. Bye.
Bye now.